Hi everyone, welcome to Dave's Bonsai. On today's episode, some midsummer updates and, of course, the big expo. It's less than 3 weeks away, everybody. Welcome to Bonsai Acres. Welcome into the backyard of Dave's Bonsai, sitting outside the PSGF on a glorious Sunday morning. It's the last day of the 4th of July weekend, and as I talk now, the apocalypse, Nigel, some sirens in the background. A pretty peaceful 4th of July weekend. Saw the show with my good friend down in Stillwater, Minnesota, a couple of nights ago. And this show is a long time coming. I have not worked on my trees, almost all of them, since May, give or take a couple of trees. I've been up at Bonsai Acres a lot, of course. Check out all the Bonsai Acres episodes. But I really haven't put my hands and scissors on my trees in my backyard. Now, there's a few reasons for that. Life has gotten a little messy in the last couple of months, and not going to get into details, but you know, it's one of those seasons again where I had to do what you all recommend I do, and that's put the scissors down. Now that's of course when I'm chopping up a tree in front of you on camera. But yeah, life has gotten a little complicated in the last couple of months, and things have been going on personally, and you know, the trees had to wait. Now, the trees had to wait where they would stay thriving and alive with automatic sprinklers, and you know, it's all worked out just fine. Today, we're just gonna look at all the trees in my backyard, and we're gonna work on some, and just talk about the trees and show you where they are, and yeah, let's get to it. Now, we're gonna stick in front of the PSGF for the first couple trees here, and it's my big forest. Now, this is forest number 2, and I've done nothing to this all year except for just this morning I started to clip a couple of leaves off of this tree. Now, I had a fire right behind me in the fire pit, and sometimes when I get a little crazy with my fire, a little heat creates a little bit of damage on some of these leaves. They're close enough to be affected. But this tree also every year seems to have a fungal issue towards the end of the year, and I think it's happening again. So there's all kinds of leaves with these little black spots on there. Now, I didn't know if it was fire damage or some kind of fungal thing, but here we go. See if that gets focused in there for you. Really a dark black color. If anybody can help me out on that, can you please put yourself some comments down for me? I don't spray a lot of my trees with a lot of chemicals. I use organic as much as possible. And I know long term with bonsai, people will say, Dave, you spend so much time and money on these trees, especially time. You know, maybe it's time to start thinking about some chemicals you might have to use. But little black sections here, very dark black. And last year, a couple of my trees, let's get some of these leaves in here for you. Last year, the trunk of the tree actually got darker colored as well. But look at that. Some of the leaves now turning yellow because maybe they're affected so much. And look at that dark black color. So if anybody, again, out there in YouTube world can tell me how I should treat this. I think I do have an antifungal spray that I just recently, I don't know if it's a pest spray or an antifungal spray. So I will try that on this tree. And even though I'm cutting off all the leaves with the spots on there, that's not to say there's no more spores hanging around the forest. But this is the forest number 2. For those of you that haven't watched and don't know what this forest represents, on my way up to the cabin, there's always a couple of spots on the drive to the cabin. This is the one on the river, where in the springtime, when all the buds are just starting to open, there's pine trees in the back, tall pine trees in the back, and in the front there's usually poplars and birch and some other trees that when they first open up, they're light green color against the green of the evergreens, and then the whitish kind of light gray and white trunks of these trees just is a pop of color that I've always just been like, that's just so cool looking. And it's only for a couple of weeks in the spring. It's kind of like fall colors where they only last for a couple of weeks and the leaves fall off. Well, in this case, it's spring colors, and then eventually they get a full canopy of leaves, and you don't see those, it's multicolored, it's just not as striking, but I've always noticed that. And so I try to recreate that with this forest. So I got all these poplars up front, and I got the pine trees in back. So we've got some collected black spruce trees that just took off because they did nothing to them this year. Look at all this new growth, a good inch and a half. And then back here are the dwarf Alberta spruces, which are kind of tall. We've cut all the branches down below to look at, you know, old death and everything down below there. And then these look pretty weak this spring, but they came back really nice, so they're fine. So I can prune all these back and kind of get this back into a shape so we can continue to get some thicker trees. And the nice thing about poplars, of course, so those of us that know poplar world, is they send off all kinds of suckers. So look down in here. This is all new growth from this tree that died, the roots down there. There's still suckers growing up in there. But again, I don't know if that one died. That was my main tree that I loved so much. And it did die. So down in there, look at this leaf now. This one completely changed. Oh, the whole leaf changed color. So I do have some systemic product for fungus that I can put on here too and let it seep into the soil. I can try some of that again today too, but let's go ahead and give this a quick little trim here. And I'm going to go pretty fast because I'm not worried about one tree and having a specific shape, but just to kind of take off some of these leaning branches out front, get them to stand. Look, this branch is way long out over here. This one's super tall. We've got some really big height and real big thickness to this tree, and I just don't need all that growth up there to take away from this overall forest image. Pretty thick. Got this tree leaning way over here now. Kind of fun though, starting to separate into different directions of the forest here. This is kind of a low branch. Let's just get rid of that one completely. Got all these suckers we'll leave here. This one's just a sucker that's just really bending down a lot though, reaching out towards the sun. So just a couple of trims to kind of get this in check. And we'll see what it pushes out for the final push of the year. This one's tangled with this tree back here. This one's leaning a little bit forward. So you might want to get a rock in there just to help him along that way more. There we go. A little cleanup just so you can kind of see these trees in the foreground, pines in the background, and we'll just call it right there. Just a little bit of cleanup today. Now as we move over to the left side of the PSGF, I'm skipping the larch forest because I can't even see the left side of the larch forest because of the Ammer Maple. Now the Ammer Maple is the tree that I gave to my friend Steven, my triple trunk, for this swap challenge. So I gave him my Ammer Maple triple trunk, and he gave me his basil leaf hawthorn. And so if you saw that update, he's working on that, and he's going to let some things grow out this year. We'll have an update on that here coming up right around the expo. I will show people what's going on with his work. But look at my Ammer Maple. Again, it's growing so thick over here, you can barely see the forest over here. They are becoming a true forest. The Larch Bog, and over here is the Ammer Maple. So they do grow like a weed. Now this thing has a great big hollow in here. I can stick my hand through here, all the way through to the other side right here. You can maybe see my fingers. So big hollow, but this one is still alive and has a big branch going up there. This one has died off, and look at the young growth right there. So we have all kinds of new growth. And this is the middle of summer here. Things have hardened off. And I'm going to go ahead and see if there's a couple of trees and growths here that I just don't need anymore. This one is a whole new sucker from down below in the root system, which will grow up and be a big thick tree, and this will just be like, again, old death on this thing. We've got a hollow in here. This one's hollow in here where it's starting to all peel off, and this will get rotten and go away in time. I'm not too worried about that, but it looks really cool right now. We've got a branch that's dangling over there. We're going to cut that one right off. And so this is a heavy box too, so I'm not going to take it out and move it around. We're just going to take a peek at it and see where we can just kind of make this more compact again and make some decisions in the fall for the final prune. So look at this guy. This guy is about 3 feet tall. 3 feet of growth. Now, if I was working on a big thick trunk Nibari, I'd leave this in the ground or a bigger container. I'd let these grow crazy, cut them back, grow crazy, cut them back. To thicken up the trunk. The trunk is thick and bulky and big. I don't need to thicken up anything down here anymore, and so really I can just cut these back just so we can see the semblance of kind of a tree that's somewhat in check. So we got one going back there that's tall, and right there. So there's the left side. We just go ahead and get rid of some of that growth. Let's come over here, and I'm not worrying about directional pruning with this. This is just some midsummer cleanup. Look at this growth. And we're going to want more design to this tree later on, but I don't need it right this moment. And so this will push out a little bit more growth this year yet, and then we'll get some fall color. Look at this one, curved onto the PSGF. Growing like crazy, and it's growing according to its environment. So this one I'm just going to leave for right now. Again, we'll look at that closer in the fall. We even got some small branches back here. So there. This one's coming right at us. Let's cut that right off. This one's coming right at us. Let's cut that off. This one's coming from way in there. And this one's kind of big and robust. Let's get rid of him. So as I pull back and just take a peek at our 5-clump forest, which now has a 6th and maybe a 7th back there, we are loaded with branches and loaded with growth. So we got the weeds away, weird growth back here. So a big haircut for this guy for the midsummer. It's got, 2 more months for sure to grow out. And we'll let it do that. So there's the Ammer Maple. Now it's in check. It's not going to overtake the other trees that much here in front of the PSGF. And we are in good shape. Tree number 2. And so the next update at midsummer prune is actually just a weeding job. So this is the yew, the taxus that I got from my friend Michael that we repotted this year. Got some nice moss grown in here. That's nice to see. We got some maple trees growing from the neighbor's tree. As always, a lot of those in my yard, in my pots. I keep some of them, I take some of them away. So the yew is doing okay. It put a big stall after all that work we did, and it's not really put out any massive growth at the moment. But it's got all these light green tips. So everything is healthy and wanting to push out new growth here. And no back budding down here, which I was hoping for something, but this may become a gin. I might be able to be a part of a workshop with MBS where we're gonna work with a carver. I think his name is Drew Bixley. Is that his name? I'm going to say it wrong. I'm sorry. I'll put it on the screen if I can remember to do that. But might make this a carving feature here and or some of this up front. But the tree is doing fine. It's got some back buds down here. This branch is doing fine. This is a nice cluster here. But this one's too long and straight. I knew that before. But after I prune some stuff, would I get any back budding? Time would tell. We'll see. If not, this is going to become a gin. Really short or completely off, or some real nice carving down here. So there's the update on the taxus or the yew. We round out the front of the PSGF with the Larch Bog Forest. So these trees, with the exception of this guy right here, front right, these trees were all collected at a northern Minnesota bog, 2 years ago now. Or is it 3? Maybe 3. 2000 and, I'm kind of forgetting. So really what it needs more than anything is a good weed job. But it looks like a forest with all these weeds here. We've got some of this kind of Spanishy moss here which can take over. You'll see some death on my forest this year. So I don't know when the last update was for my Larch Bog Forest, but we've lost a few trees. And in the spirit of the redwoods when I was there, the big old down trees, this one I just laid down. There's the roots sticking up right there, and that's just down in the forest. But then I lost these two as well, kind of a bummer. Now there's all kinds of more larches that I can collect out in northern Minnesota, including my own personal bog up at Bonsai Acres. Now I haven't gone up to look in my northeast corner for a tree that I can harvest as of yet. I've been working on so many other things up there. My priority has been the property, not so much larch trees, because guess what? They're going to always be there. A lot of maples grown in here again from the neighbor tree. But I want this to stay the larch bog that it was meant to be. So I got some weeds that I can just kind of clean up here. And we just haven't pruned this one at all yet this summer. So this has the first flush all in its glory, big and tall and lots of it and wide. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to give this thing a little bit of a cut here once I clean up all the weeds. Now that the weeds are pulled, I'm going to consider my pruning options. Now, I don't do this very well, and people talk about it. Professionals have talked about it. Club members have talked about it. But when you have a bonsai tree, maybe just a tree, and a forest might not be any different, people talk about rotating their trees so the sun hits it differently. Well, this is technically the back of the forest. This was the back of the planting, but it has a nice kind of warm, inviting look now with these dead trees up front, and we got the two sides here. I'm just going to leave it as is as I prune it this year. I'm not going to look at it as the other side being the front. Now, this big monster tree, which was probably my 30-year-old tree because of the girth of that tree coming out of a bog in northern Minnesota, could have approached 25, 30 years old. Bit the dust. So this was going to be kind of that old growth forest, and this one's pretty big and robust. This one's big and robust, and that was my other big one. Maybe that's not in the cards anymore, but has this kind of funky branch that grew up kind of like the redwood trees, where you get those branches grow up, and this could be a tree within itself. This could be a 20, 30-foot tree in the redwood forest out of a 200-foot tree. So we have a big bushy, look at this big bushy guy right here. Again, not maintained this summer whatsoever. That one back there has been blocked by the bushiness of this, the bushiness of that. This is dead, so there's light coming over here, but that one's kind of trimmed up okay. And so we can just go ahead and get new leaders in here. We got some new leaders growing up. We don't want that so darn big and long. And so if I just do a little bit of pruning on here super quick, I just got that middle one kind of into shape. Just like that. And again, without going in with a fine-tooth comb today, this is just kind of mid-season cleanup for me, so I don't just continue to have this these long, thick bushes here. So, initial prune to profile. And again, this was meant to be kind of an old-growth forest, but this tree isn't mature enough to have a big, rounded, old-growth top. So I got to get all these tall guys in check, or these wide guys in check up here, because that just doesn't look like a very typical tree in our world. So those two trees just look a little bit nicer, a little bit cleaner. And if there's a blaring branch like that I'm seeing right now, right here, I can go ahead and clean that up a little bit. A couple long dangly ones, a couple nice pads at the bottom. And then we go down further on this tree, and as I pull it back that you can't see, there's a lot of growth trying to grow into that other tree back there. So all of these little clippings. We're just cleaning this forest up look at the difference before and after. And again, nothing real intense. I could go in here with my hands too, and I could be plucking in all this extra bottom growth on all these branches. And would that be beneficial? Yes, it probably would be beneficial. I will get to that at a different stage of today or the coming days, and not to just show you that on camera, the whole plucking process. But as you're plucking these bottom foliages off here, you get more air into your tree, and it's just going to allow more light and less congested is a good way to put it, less congested. And so we can do that again at a later time. I won't do that on camera. Now these are dead. They're just going to stay a dead forest. I love this big old dead tree. I'm not going to touch it at all. And what we may have to do is add a couple of new of my my year 1 and 2 year trees. We can add 5 more trees in here. And then we have a kind of this old, bigger sized tree. We have the medium sized trees, and I can add my little trees, and this could still do some wonderful things. What I may do next spring though is take it out of my homemade wooden tray here that I made, this box with the tray inside, and I may put this in one of my big ovals that I have and condense the forest a little bit more. And I would probably still plant this in there for the look, or lay this one down in place of this one. So I'm going to clean these up and we'll go to another tree. So we'll see in a little bit. So as I wrap up work for the first part of this morning, the yew on the left we weeded. Moving over to the right, we have the Ammer, which is cleaned up real nice. And then we have the Larch Bog, also cleaned up pretty nice, looking refreshed. And then over to the right, Minnesota Forest number 2, with the poplars a little shorter than the pines in the back, all standing up straight and ready to receive the light. And I did sprinkle a little bit of antifungal systemic product in the soil so that it seeps in there and hopefully helps out those trees. Again, any comments in the comments section would be great for those black spots. Time to move on. This looks so much better. Next up is another tamarack. So this is one of my deal trees, one of my favorite nurseries, Gerton's here in the Twin Cities in Invergrove Heights. I've done a couple of workshops with Gerton's this year. It's been a ton of fun. Met some great new people who are excited about getting into bonsai. Did a couple of those workshops through Bonsai Acres. Had some of my friends help me on those workshops from the club. Fantastic time. People are enjoying it. And then they're contacting me later for more questions. I love it. Getting people excited about bonsai. This tree I got as a discount tree, probably $100 plus tree at the time, in a 5-gallon big 5 or 10 gallon pot. And it was for 25 bucks. Pretty nice larch tamarack. And about 2-3 years ago, when Peter T was in town, Peter T touched this tree and he chopped it all. We chopped all these stubs. So here's an example of a stub. This was left as 1 inch right here, right where my scissors points, right where my finger is. That was a 2-inch stub. And now we've got this little pad forming right over here off to an angle. So a fantastic recovery, and a couple, 2-3 years later, it's looking really nice. We've got this pad forming right there, cutting branches that are straight up and straight down. So if you can see right there, this is the old wound. That was the stub we left. Now this is too long. We'll just cut that off right there. And we chopped the tree. This tree was taller. We chopped it as like this was some kind of lightning bolt. We have a new top to the tree. A couple of branches we just don't want because they're protruding. Again, these trees haven't been touched all year. So we have all kinds of branches here. Here's a nice skinny one up here to get rid of this one going back in towards this right here. So this could become the new leader if I don't keep this one right here. So I'm going to keep them both and we'll decide on that. Cut off some of these wispy foliage here. You can kind of see that tip a little bit better. So this right here is going to be kind of the new leader of this tree with this broken off right here. And it's kind of coming up here. It's got a little bit too much of a right bend here, but it comes back over here. This could make it soften a little bit more, or I'll keep it over here so it's further away from this. This is growing inside. We'll just cut that off right there. too tall and long, too long, all those too long, that tall in the tree. So I'm going from the top down on this tree, and we're going to see what's left. Branches growing up, not so much out, although they grow more up at the tops of the tree, so it's not too bad. This one's coming from way in here. We'll cut that one back right there. Okay, so as a profile prune, as I'm standing taller than the tree, I can just come around here and get these layer by layer, real skinny up top, skinnier or wider at the bottom, and I'm going to leave some of the girth at the bottom because those are the bigger branches, and we're letting those grow long and thicken up, so we don't want to go too short on those guys. And this is a profile prune, so I'm not doing any directional. A couple of branches that are really long and growing from the inside, you've seen me maybe just snip off completely. And right there, in a matter of a few seconds, we've been able to establish this tree again as more of a tree and not this big old growth and bushy type thing. So let's step back and take a look at this. This is kind of a cool front because it kind of swoops a little bit to the right and then back to the left, so I kind of like this as the front. It showcases this with this more towards the back. This leans too much at us, but this is the other potential front right here. You can see that swoop again down here come up that way, and it's leaning a lot more towards us here. Brings this out more to the front, but then you see that as the tree. So this will become the conical part of this tree. Branch growing from a weird direction. This one's growing straight up. Really weird direction. And so I have to decide, yeah, that front might be the best front. Look at this guy growing straight down. We don't need that. Look at this one coming from way over here. Don't need that. Those are the easier decisions when you start getting into bonsai. Straight up and down right there, straight up and down right there, coming from way inside. And now we can see the paths of this tree again a little bit better. I'm liking this as the front. It's kind of kitty corner right now, and the way it's planted, and we got this beautiful branch right here. So we want that to grow out. We'll give it some room to grow by getting rid of some of those branches right there. And so this is our long, thick primary branch with a branch up here. This is coming from the back. So we'll leave that alone for right now. Down. Then we got this kind of in front of us. So how do we take this apart, break it apart a little bit so it's not so in our face if this is the new front? Some big decisions will have to be made. We'll have to cut a few branches completely off. Soften how this approaches our view. So there's another stub right here. Let's start to grow this little pad out here, which is kind of nice. So we have right, left, right, left, right, back, left, right. And there's one back here as well. So we've got some decent structure on this tree now. So we continue on its journey. A first profile, and then take out some of the thick stuff. And if it's going too up, we cut it down. If it's too long, we're cutting it shorter. This one right here is growing up. I'm gonna cut that off and cut this shorter. There we go. Still super thick in here. I can't even see what's going on. Kind of a good problem to have, but also you can't see what's going on. so the viewer can't really see it either. That larch, it's looking pretty decent now. This still might be a little bit out too far, and we see we have not much taper here, but I have this branch growing out here, so we can have it go down here and then swoop over here towards the back, and then right there is our nice branch. But let's leave a little bit of length here. We'll see where it back buds in the future. This branch is really kind of fun. It's a little bit in our face with our new front, but we're gonna leave it for now. We'll make those decisions later again as we see the growth. And we have all kinds of branches that are just squirreling from the back over here. So when a tree grows this rapidly and you have this many decisions to make, that's super nice. And you can just kind of crank in here and go to town. And so we went to town. Let's put the scissors down. And there's the original possible front, moving this branch over, but or maybe one of the fronts, but I think at an angle like this is kind of cool, but this is still in our way a little bit. This is just, we have less thickness of that trunk, and then this side is also a possibility right there on that angle. And we just figure out how we're gonna angle this with our primary branches. That almost looks better, again, than that other side. Nice bottom flare there, and it moves up just subtly, and we have a nice tree all the way around. So there is the big discount larch, $25 tree. Sorry, wayward branch, wayward branch, wayward branch. Come on, Dave. All right. The larch can go back to its home.